Welcome to week 7 of our active recovery to help improve the single arm overhead squat. Final week, we are going to focus on 3 attributes that I found helped improve those positions the most. Again, this is great for full body mobility as well, even if you're not sticking around for that part. But we're going to focus on the groin area, getting a wider stance, the ankles, getting a better low end of your squat, and then shoulders, maybe getting your shoulder in an overhead position that is at least moderately more comfortable. Again, with all full body mobility. So what you'll need today, either dowel, band, shoestring, something that you can hold onto, pull apart, and then you can either use, if you're sticking around for the single arm overhead squat test, this will be the final one, so this will be our test. Use a kettlebell or even a shoe on the fist. Let's get started. Hands and knees, flexion extension through the spine. Begin your breath work. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Tuck the chin, and then look up to the ceiling. Tuck the tailbone, and then extend. Bring in a full range. Feel that stretch through the abs on the extension. Feel those shoulder blades separate apart on flexion. Let's go through some T-spine rotation. Single arm. Gradually work your way up. Keeping the elbows straight, thumb coming back over the head, over and back, over and back. In through the nose, out through the mouth. So watching this particular T-spine rotation in class, seeing a lot of different ways it's being done, and there are a number of ways. And why we switch them up is so we can focus on different parts. I find this one gets a segment of my spine that's a little bit stiffer, and these targets an area. That's why it makes it so hard to breathe at the top. I spend a little bit more time on it. Notice how the elbow is straight, thumb comes back, 2, 1. Fingers pointing out, knees a little closer together. Keep the knees into the hips. Drop the hips from side to side. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Big deep breaths. Two, 1, and good. Child's pose position here with a rock, arms overhead, butt down to the heels. If you're doing this one after the strength circuit this week, you're probably feeling the arms. Shoulders. It's been 2 days now since I did that one. That was definitely the high volume of the week. So continue to rock, fingers flat on, or fingertips flat on the ground. Feel that stretch to the shoulders, loosening up through the back, and then pull yourself forwards. Some loaded extension. Fingers are pointing out. Let the hips drop to one side, hips drop to the other side. And then back into that child's pose. Rock. And then chest onto the ground. Scorpion. Okay, so we're going to progress this one. Palms flat. Just a gentle roll to start. Toe taps the other side. Keep breathing going here. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Gradually get that foot to curl up towards the hands a little bit more. Keep those palms flat on the ground. If you can't get the foot to the hand, that's completely fine, especially as we're warming up. Work a little bit more each time. Okay, and now what we're gonna do, we're gonna go into the chest a little bit more. So we're gonna pause, we're gonna lift arm up, a little bit higher angle. My stability arm's pushing into the ground. I'll go to the other side, show you what the other arm's doing. Hold this position, feel that stretch through the pecs, a little bit through this spine as well. Only holding it for a couple seconds. Get that position. Next part, And this is a little bit of a segue into what we're going to be doing next week. We're going to be going into some PNF. Okay, so what that means without having to spend too much time explaining. The hand that's up overhead, push down into the ground for 3, 2, 1. And let's come on the other side. Hand gets pushed down in the ground for 3, 2, 1. Do one more set here. Push down into the ground for 3, 2, 1. Alternating. Push down on the ground for 3, 2, 1. Okay, now push yourself up. Flip over onto your back. Go into some iron crosses. Same idea. Palms up, tops of the hands on the ground. Kick over. And back. Rotation of the spine, especially the T-spine, so critical when you get to the bottom of a single arm overhead squat. But then also, this is probably, if I were to put a golf form up together, these would be a lot of movements. Do ideally before you get out onto the tee box. 3, 2, 1. A little rock through the spine. Into some hip wipers. Normally you do the hip wipers before all that. This should feel a little bit looser. Into the nose, out through the mouth. All right, and 2 and 1. We're gonna lift the arms off the ground and over and back. 10, 9, 8, 3, 2, 1. Get into a figure 4 position. Nice long stance. Get that back leg behind you. And really set tone here. Reach forward, palm is up. Reach the fingertips. Come back to center. Back leg comes forwards. Hinge. Don't stretch the hips. Alternate, really reach back. Don't be in a rush here. Get into a good position. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Rotate, hinge. Alternating. Last one per side. And we're going to go into a frog. Okay, so we begin to move into the groin. Pay attention which side gets a little bit stiffer when you're doing these squats. So it could be the shoulders, could very well be the shoulders, could be the ankles. But our first focus in the groin, being able to get low into the squat. If you notice one side, for instance, gets a little bit stiffer when you're trying to get down, or stickier when you get down to the squat, then you're gonna spend a little bit more time when we bias the left and right side. So what I mean is I'm not gonna do equal, let's say 20 reps on each side. You might wanna do 15 on the side that's stickier, or 15 on the side that's not as sticky, 25 on the other side that is stickier. And start thinking about what is not moving as freely. If you don't know, that's fine. Just follow along. So gradually getting a little bit deeper here. My spine is straight. Equal pressure on left and right sides. And add a little internal rotation. Sink back. Internal rotation. Sink back. And single leg frog. Pivot on the heel. back and rotate. Get that toe up, sinking back, get it into the hamstring, in through the nose, out the mouth. Four, 3, 2, 1. So I'm going to hold this position here, sinking back. I've got my hands on the ground, hold myself up, and then I'm going to rotate, scrub this leg inwards. So toe is up and then down. Create some space in the socket. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Come back to center, and let's go on the other side. Sink back, and then down. You might be thinking this side is tighter than the other one, and it should be right now because you just stretched the other side. So after about 10 reps, you reevaluate. Does this feel still tighter? If so, well, stay on this side with me. If you feel like this one loosened up faster, now you can go back to the other side. In through the nose, out the mouth. Another 3, 2, 1. Sink down here, close leg and open leg. 10, 9, 8, 7. Really, when you're closing this leg, it's when the toe comes down. This is when it gets uncomfortable in the hip capsule. This is where we want to find this range of motion, this internal rotation. 3, 2. Bear with me on this one. Keep your foot here. I want to find that uncomfortable position, and then I'm going to roll onto the hip and extend. Allow that leg to lengthen. I'm feeling the stretch down the side of the leg, into the torso a little bit. Come back and do this on the other side. And on the other side. Okay, allow yourself to sink into this. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Okay, so that's going to help with our wide stance. Next part, similar to a lizard, except back knee is going to be on the ground. We're going to focus right now on the ankle. So back knee, move, adjust it as much as you need to so that we can focus on the stretch coming in through the ankle and not through the hamstrings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on my tripod foot. I'm going to pin this foot down with my hand. Just want to draw some circles. Okay, and initially, might be stiff through the hips, that's fine. But with that back knee on the ground, we can really focus on the ankle. All right, so holding that foot down, drawing some circles, push that forwards and out. So when I say out, I mean out over top of the pinky toe, but keep that big toe down onto the ground. We want to mimic that squat position, even though it's easy to just allow that foot to come in. Screw that femur into the socket, so out, externally rotate, push the knee out, and then you want to push that knee forwards and then draw little circles here at the top. Okay, take my hand off, heel comes off a little bit, and add a little bit more weight into this. Feel a little bit more into the calf, soleus area. Try to create some space down here, wiggle left and right, and then from this position we're going to pop into more of a lizard. So I'm going to get my back knee a little bit further back, push the knee out, inside arm comes down, and then rotate up. Get forearm down and up. Last one. And then we're going to pop into the other side. Okay, so back knee is close. I'm going to find my end range here, pin that foot down with my hand, draw in some circles. Knee goes back and forth. Loosens up in through the ankle. Get that heel off the ground a little bit. And same idea. Feel that stretch a little more into the calf. Put some more pressure into the toes to create more dorsiflexion, or the toe up to the shin position. Another 2, 1, and then into lizard. Still keep that knee forwards. The inside arm comes down and then up. Three, 2, and 1. All right, standing up. Go into a squat sequence here. So heels on a wedge or flat, up to you. Sinking down and then back up. You have 3 reps on the third one. Stay down. 3 and down. I guess it's technically the 4th rep. So pushing the knees out, pry them out with your elbows. Get into some rotations. 10, 9, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Sinking down. I want you to pay attention to those ankles. Knees come forwards as much as you can with the heels down onto the ground. Okay, pry the knees open. Palm, fist, elbows on the insides of the knees, and then gradually bring your hands closer into the body. Sink down here. And then let's continue to squat. 3 more. 3, 2, 1. Now we're going to go into a side lunge. So gradually increase your distance. The first thing is making sure our step is going to be a full knee tracking over to the toe, tripod foot, and I'm keeping my belly button face forwards, come back up to center, down, a little bit lower on each one. A little bit lower on each one. Creating some space in the SI joint. Pelvis gets sticky. 3, 2, especially if you've been running, and 1. Other side. Gradually increase that distance. Okay, tripod foot, knee tracking over the toe. A little bit lower on each one. 3, 2, and 1. Reverse lunge. So in the reverse lunge, focus on the, show you from this side, tripod foot, knee tracking over top of the pinky toe, maintaining an arch. Okay, maintain that arch in the foot, which is much easier to do when that knee is tracking over top the pinky toe. Note that the knee is still traveling forwards. Work on that knee traveling forwards while maintaining the tripod foot. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, hip airplanes. By now you should have a wall somewhere you've been using for these. Find your hinge. Find the stretch in the back of the leg. Close that stretch. and then stack the hips, rotating. Three, two, one. Come up, shaking it out onto the other side. Get into your hinge, parallel to the ground. Find the stretch in the back of the leg. Close the hip, stack the hip. Five more. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and up. Shaking it out. Okay, knee circles. Now I'm focusing on the knees coming as far forwards as possible. And for me, this is a good test because with my Achilles, this was a little bit looser, but not as strong. My goal here is to find a symmetrical circle. So in other words, I don't want one knee coming forward. I want them to be together, circle out, and then stand all the way back up. Sort of close out the lower body segment. 2, 1, switch directions. Okay, roll from the think circles through where your foot is balancing on the ground, although your foot is in a circle, but you get my drift here. Outsides of the feet, front of the feet, other sides of the feet, back of the feet, and continue. 2, 1, and good. All right, moving into the shoulders. So cross body, this is what we're gonna use the dowel shortly, or band, or shoestring, okay, whatever you've got. You don't necessarily need it, but it will help. So loosening up here, circles, continue those arm circles. Think about shrugging as well, so shoulders come up to the ears. Switch directions. Gets a lot of the cracks out right off the bat. Okay, and then across, rotate palms, your shoulders internally, externally rotate. 3, 2, 1. Palms up, rotate one down, chin, eyes go towards one side, palm is up, opposite palm goes down. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Four, 3, 2, 1. Keep those palms up. Internally rotate to the shoulder blade. Back to the palms up position. Internally rotate that palm. Fingers come up towards the shoulder blade. Reach up a little bit higher on each one. After discovering how poor, mainly internal rotation, but also external, especially on my left, this is going to be, for those of you coming into Fuel, a big focus in our mobility, the next training cycle. Basically to help improve overhead pressing positions, more symmetry between left and right, help prevent injury when you're doing pressing exercises. 2, 1, and good. Okay, wall access here. So first part, external rotators. So get close enough you can get your low back flat against the wall. Elbows at shoulder height. Okay, keep the back head against the wall. And then I want to rotate the backs of the hands into the wall and then down as low as I can get them without the shoulders rolling forwards. Okay, I want to pivot on that elbow 2019. Ten, 9, 8, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Kryptonite. Okay. Next part. Wall arm slides. This is the one I saw the biggest improvement in the last session we did. We're going to work towards this again. So similar position to where we finished. You can pull the elbows down a little bit, back to the hands on the wall, head and back on the wall, press up, overhead. Doing this on the floor if you don't have wall access. Oh, the toughest. Okay, grabbing the dowel, band, whatever it is that you've got. So that was sort of our initial test there. How did it feel? Then we're going to progress this, see if we can get into a better position when we do those wall arm slides on the next one here. So with the dowel, first part, dislocates. And paying attention to the width, how much narrower can I get before things start to get sticky. Okay, if you've got a band, then this will be variable as it stretches. And as we're holding the dowel, you won't be able to see it, but you're actively, and this is the importance behind this, I'm actively pulling outwards, but I'm also keeping a fixed position, right? I'm keeping a fixed position, I mean my hands aren't moving. But that activation, like that PNF I was referring to, proprioneuroceptive flexion, just know it's the stretches where we push in or resist, activate, create tension, as opposed to passively stretching. But anyway, what we're doing there is we're trying to create more space. Dowel allows us to do that. So I'm gradually moving my hands inwards only if I can maintain the same smoothness. If it starts to get stuck and you have to bend the elbows, go wider. Okay, if you have to, go wider. Keep that rib cage down. 2, 1. All right, up overhead. So my hands are really wide right now, and really to be able to get into the single arm overhead squat, ideally you get your arms straight up, but notice how my rib cage flares. So we're gonna work towards that. I wanna get my arms up overhead where I am not flaring the rib cage. I can pull that rib cage down. Okay, I'm actively pulling the hands out. I can do a side bend. Now, as I do the side bend, notice how the side that I'm bending to, my hips move away to the opposite side. Hips move away, opposite side. Keeping the legs straight. Get a little bit of a stretch down the sideline, but I'm also working on getting some more shoulder opening here, flexion. Over and back for 3, 2, back to center, and 1. Okay, bring the hands a little bit closer together. Okay, they're up overhead, keeping that rib cage down. Okay, now I'm gonna just pulse backwards. So we did this with I mentioned this last time, but we did this with a kettlebell, like an arm bar extension. I found that, well, since most of you aren't using kettlebells for this, this is going to achieve similar results, and I found that actually helped quite a bit. Try and focus on that rib cage coming down, pulsing backwards, hands over the head, locking out. Really press up as high as you can. Sometimes I get caught lazy with the shoulders down. I want to press up as high as I can. I'm going to inch them in a little bit more, keeping that rib cage down for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come back down, relax. Okay, I'm going to put the dowel down. For now, we're going to go into some rotating pec stretches. I want to get my elbow up slightly above the shoulder, lean into a wall, and then lean into this. So as I find my stance where I can lean, gradually increase some space overhead, the lats and the pecs, so you think front and back, are what help prevent your shoulder from going back, forward, a little bit out to the side as well. But that also means where they help prevent you get to those positions, they're going to be sticky and make it hard for you to get into an overhead position. So you want to loosen both of those up. With the dowel, we were just working on the lats, then we'll do a little bit more lat work on the wall, and now we're going into the pecs. Now this isn't PNF because what I'm doing is I'm leaning into it. So although I'm not necessarily passively doing this exercise, I am passively stretching the joint by leaning into it. As opposed to active, where we're not going to work on it too much, but just to show you, if I push the hand into it, and you feel that difference. So creating that space through PNF, as I said, is going to be a bit more of a focus for next cycle. 2, 1. I'll just give you a little intro to it. Because by now, if you're watching the 7th one, I hope, I'm expecting you to the next cycle. I'll carry it on. Find your stance. Okay, same foot forward as the arm that's being stretched, the pec that's being stretched. Lean into it. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so the lat version of this. Arm is up overhead. I want to lean into the wall, and I just want to allow my shoulders to fall towards the wall a little bit. Thumb pointing behind the head. Inhale and exhale. Okay, focusing on this overhead position. Inhale, exhale. Now how I can activate on here, I'm not doing full PNF, but I want to think I'm not just using my body to lean back up, I'm actively pushing my arm against the wall to come back up as well. And I'm adjusting that hand on each rep. Find a different area that can be worked on. This is the arm that has worse mobility. Spend a little bit more time on it. But this, even here, I'm finding there's a lot of resistance. 3, 2, 1. All right, other side. So I want to spend a little more time on that one. Gradually into it. You can use your other hand for support if you feel like you're putting too much weight. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Okay, find different angles where you're feeling more of a stretch. This one getting a little bit more into the bicep area, attaching into the shoulder. Where these areas need more work, find it. Press your arm into the wall to come back up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's go back to the wall arm slide. So here's the test for me. I know that if this position has improved, that my overhead squat will, or my overhead position will improve. So I could have a tough time getting my hands up against the wall. 20 reps and press. Yeah, that's better. Three, 2, 1, and good. All right. So that brings our full body mobility to a close there. We're going to continue now with some windmill positions. Get ready for the single arm overhead squat. Try this out. If you haven't done it, you can put the shoe on your fist to do it. This is still a good mobility exercise if you've got the time. I'm going to move into the kettlebell. So with our windmill position, weight-wise, we want a weight that is doable. I'm actually going to go a little bit lighter because I found the heavier one last time didn't actually help me get in a better position. It just changed how it felt. So with the windmill, you want to think about the goal here, assuming you've got this movement down, is creating space through the shoulder. So I'm gonna be holding the position at the bottom of the windmill and working on a bit of an arm bar to get a better overhead position. So with this windmill, again, if you are still working on the position, the half kneeling windmill is a better option. Again, we worked on those through the first 5 sessions. Okay, work on that half kneeling. Otherwise, you can go standing. I'm gonna work on the standing position. Up in the front rack, up overhead. Okay, get the feet out. I'm gonna hinge. And right now, overhead, I'm working on this arm coming back, almost drifting, like an arm bar, get a better overhead position. I'm gonna hinge. Now, as I hinge, it relieves a lot of the pressure from that. And I'm gonna rest my arm on the thigh here, and I'm gonna create a little bit more position by coming back. It's a little bit more advanced, so only pulse as far as you can stay in a nice neutral spine, maintaining your hinge. 2, 1, come back up, and I want the kettlebell to come back again. 5, 4, or the shoe on your fist. 3, 2, 1. Open up those feet, hinge down, get as low as you can, or you can rest your arm on your knee. Again, but I've got most of this pressure going into the back of the left leg in that hinge. Okay, you can always watch a couple and then go into it to see what I'm doing. Find this position overhead. 2, 1, come back up. We'll get one more here. Get the arm back. Focus on this bicep coming into the ear. Arm overhead, back. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hinge. And work it back. 3, 2, 1. And up. Good. Down the front rack. On the other side. Okay, I've started with my non-dominant side. And in these scenarios, I've gotten used to doing that. I think there's a muscle memory component to this. So there is an advantage to starting on your dominant side. You start to build confidence in the pattern, and then that will transfer onto your less or your non-dominant side. Whereas when we do workouts, focusing on your non-dominant side first, the goal there is to make sure that you're not fatiguing your non-dominant side. So bit of a rant as I hold this up overhead, but understand that there is a purpose behind when you start in your non-dominant versus when you don't. I've been working on this drift overhead. Let's go into the hinge. Okay, so I get into this windmill and then allow the arm to drift. This one has so much more room to work with than the other side, especially here in the pecs. 2, 1, spiral back up, arm comes back. It's like it's a different arm. 2, 1, spiral down, hinge, let it drift. 2, 1. Okay, one more rep. Arm comes back. Create that space. 3, 2, 1. Final windmill. Drift. And up. Back down. Good. So there should be no discomfort in the back there. For me, all through the shoulders as I find that position. Okay, now what we want to do is go into a goblet squat. Not super wide, but we want to create a little bit more tension with our prise. So using that same kettlebell or heavier. Okay, we're going to get into a goblet squat. My feet are a little bit wider than they would be in a typical squat. And I want to work on my elbows, driving the knees. And then I'm just going to pulse from side to side, over and back, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Create that space in through the groin. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Straight back, standing up. Stretch out those hips, get a little rotation. Okay, one more rep here. Sink down into the squat. Get a little bit wider if you can. Play around with your feet. Your knees are tracking over top the pinky toes. Good strong arches. tripod foot. And there's 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Standing up. Oh. Good. Shaking that off. All right. Next part here for the ankles. You can take that kettlebell. Now, if you're not using a kettlebell, you can grab your shoe. Okay, I'm going to get into a little bit of a stretch here. That's harder with these ones. It doesn't have to be a huge stretch, just enough. Got my foot elevated, and I want to stretch forwards, just lengthen out the calves just a little bit before we get into this. Notice how my knee is straight here, and then I'm going to continue with a bent knee. So I'm doing this on slight elevation. Your shoe would work on this too. So just driving this forwards, creating a little bit more space. Not a static stretch. Okay, I'm getting a little passive, but I'm getting a bounce onto the other side now. Okay, knee is straight. Find my position first. Competition ones move around a lot more than cast iron, but really all we want to do is try and get the toes slightly elevated. Knee is straight. Create a little bit more space. Get down to the bottom. Now I'm going to bend the knee. Get into the soleus. A little bit more. Create a little more. 3, 2, 1, and good. All right. First set, I'm going to go with my wedges. If you're using a wedge, you can grab those. If you're not, you don't need them either. Today, the retest. And because I know you've been filming this and you've been reviewing your footage to see how it is, because you haven't sent it to me, and I haven't been able to tell you how it is, that you will also compare this to your week 1 overhead squat. Okay, week 1 overhead squat. So I'm going to do 2 sets of 3 with the wedges, one from the front, one from the side to see how that position looks. And then I'm going to do 2 sets without the wedges at the same weight. And then we're going to do 2 sets, no wedges, the heaviest weight that you can do. 3 reps for each one. So find your squat position. I've got my, going to be a little bit wider than what I would typically do in a squat, similar to what we just did with the pry. I'm going to start with my dominant side first, because again, I want to get that muscle memory. As I remind myself, okay, get in position, 3 reps. 2, 1. 3, 2, and 1. Okay. From the side. See, it's like going to get your dental exam where they do the x-rays on both, all around the mouth for comparison. Why not do it for your fitness too, huh? Well, I guess we are. If you're watching this far, you know it. Other side, original dominant side, 3 reps. 3, 2, and 1. Non-dominant side. And good. All right. Wedges done. Basically the warm up. I find too with the wedges, I don't need to be quite as wide because the limiting factor for that is going to be the ankles, which it relieves, right? Looks after by virtue of getting the heels elevated. So now, without the wedges, I'm going to get my feet wider, which will help allow for me to get a little bit more stability with a little bit less rotation. So starting the dominant side. See how this goes. Feels a lot better. Okay, lightweight, wider stance. That last one's the best one yet. Good. Okay, from the side. Do this. Feels better. Okay, and the final set. I've never done them with a 44, so I'm gonna try it. Okay, this is really where mistakes, errors get magnified, but with especially a lot of movements, squats specifically, more weight helps you get into better positions, assuming that you can get back up, right? So if you've got more weight pushing you down, it's easier to get into that position. Likewise, for moving the arm back. So if I can stay, I'm confident that I can squat this back up if I can stay in the position. So the goal here is make sure that use the weight, the advantage of the weight to get into a better position. Because if that weight starts to move, then it's just gonna fall. I won't be able to bring it back because it's too heavy. So starting at the dominant side. Nice wide stance, pressing up. That's pretty good. I'll break there. And then onto the dominant side, non-dominant side. This is the real test. 7 weeks, it's all come down to this. How much has it improved? Wide stance, close the chain, press the arm up into the ceiling. Good. A little bit off on that last one. That's way better. That concludes our 7-week single arm squat active recovery session. So as you can see, when we work towards a goal, at least in my case, this helped improve what that objective was. We've got dedicated workouts to a goal. That's the difference really between working out, where there's no goals, and training, working out towards a goal. And same idea with our regular strength and conditioning workouts. We want to work towards something. We've got to repeat workouts. We've got to measure progress, and we've got to see. We've got to evaluate what we're doing. So coming up into our next session, we've got a 9-week training cycle. Still finishing this up. But one thing I can tell you is they're going to be shorter. I'm going to be capping these at 30 minutes. I'm not going to segment them into 2 different groups. It's going to be, again, full body mobility, but we'll be working on different goals throughout the 9 weeks, because 9 weeks is a long time. We're getting into the summer. Those of you playing golf, those of you playing tennis, those of you doing more rotational based sports, those of you just getting outside and doing more things. We're going to find some more specificity to help improve. So see you in the next one, and hope that this helped you out.